That image alone has saved me more times than I know how to say. Boothess. And I never told you that. I never told you how often you're the first thing on my mind before I even open my eyes properly. How your laugh, the one I imagine when you're reading something that catches you off guard, is the soundtrack playing softly in the back of my mind. On the hardest days, I should have told you sooner, I know that. But some things are so fragile when they're new that you're afraid to breathe on them too hard. Afraid that naming them might make them disappear. Looking. So I carried it quietly. I carried you quietly. But tonight, at 30,000 feet, somewhere between where I've been and where I'm going, I realized I've been so careful about not saying too much that I've been saying almost nothing at all. And you deserve more than my silence. You deserve the whole truth of what I feel when I think about you, which is warmly, constantly, and with a kind of ache that doesn't have a simple name. There's something I have to ask you, and I need you to really hear this. Do you ever feel like you're waiting for something without knowing exactly what it is? Like there's this quiet restlessness in your chest, a feeling that life is on the edge of becoming something more than it currently is, but you can't quite see the shape of it yet, because I have felt that way for a long time. Years maybe, and somewhere along the way, that feeling started to have your face on it. That restlessness started to sound like your name. But I've been thinking about what I want to say to you when I land. I've rehearsed it in my head 100 different ways. Some versions are poetic and perfectly arranged. Some are just me standing in front of you with nothing prepared. Just the raw and stumbling truth spilling out of me because I don't know how to be anything other than honest with you. But all of them end the same way, with me looking at you and you finally knowing without any more wondering that what I feel is real, that it has always been real. You know what's funny? People talk about love like it's supposed to arrive all at once, like a wave crashing over you and knocking you off your feet. And maybe for some people it does, but for me, with you, it was slower than that. It was like waking up. Like one morning I opened my eyes and there was more light in the room than there had been before. And I looked around trying to figure out where it was coming from, and it was just the thought of you, the presence of you in my life. Quiet and warm and already so necessary that I couldn't remember what the room had looked like before it was there. I want to ask you something, and I don't want you to answer out loud. Just feel it somewhere deep inside, where you keep the things you don't say to everyone. When was the last time someone really saw you? Not the version of you that's put together and showing up on time, and saying the right things, but the you that's curled up inside that. The one that gets tired of performing okay. The one that lies awake at night and has whole conversations in her head that she'll never say out loud. When was the last time someone made you feel like that version of you? The real one, the messy and complicated and beautifully unfinished one, was not just acceptable, but extraordinary. Because I see her, I see you, and I'm not looking away. I've spent so much of my life surrounded by people and still feeling alone in the particular way that loneliness finds you, even in a crowded room. When you look around and realize that no one there really knows you, that the version of you they're laughing with, eating with, sharing space with, it's a sketch of you, a surface, and the real you is sitting somewhere just behind your ribs, very still, very quiet, waiting for someone to come close enough to notice. I came close enough, and what I found when I got there stopped me completely, because you are not what I expected. You are so much deeper than the first layer. So much softer in the places that have been hurt. So much braver in the ways that don't get celebrated. So much more beautiful in the ordinary moments that no one is taking pictures of. The way your mind works, the things you care about, the details you notice that other people walk right past. I am undone by all of it. I am completely and quietly undone. Look, my hands are actually a little unsteady right now writing this, which is not like me. I am usually so composed, so careful, so good at keeping myself on the right side of the line between feeling and showing. But something about knowing that in a few hours I'll be on the ground, and the distance between us will be less than it's been in a long time. Something about that is making all the things I've kept carefully tucked away start to push forward, start to insist on being said. Forgitud? So let me say them. I think about your mornings. I wonder if you're a slow riser, or if you wake up quickly and immediately. If you need the quiet first, or if you reach for your phone right away. If you drink your coffee black, or with too much sweetener the way you're a little embarrassed to admit. I wonder about the playlist you put on when you're getting dressed, and what you think about when you're driving somewhere alone, and the music is low and the world outside the window is blurring past. I wonder if you talk to yourself when no one's around, and what you say, and whether it's kind. Though, I hope it's kind. You deserve to be spoken to kindly, especially by yourself. I wonder if anyone has ever told you that the specific way you love, quietly, consistently, with your whole heart and barely any fanfare, is one of the most remarkable things about you. That the world is better because you move through it the way you do. Leaving warmth in places without even realizing you've been there. That the people who have been loved by you are luckier than they probably know. Because your love is not the loud dramatic kind that burns fast and bright. It's the kind that stays, that comes back, that sits with you in the hard parts without needing you to be anything other than exactly what you are. Though, I've been wanting to be someone who deserves that kind of love. That's part of why I'm on this plane. Part of why I've been doing the work I've been doing. The internal quiet work that nobody sees, but that changes everything. I've been asking myself hard questions. I've been sitting with the uncomfortable answers. I've been trying to become the version of myself that I'd want you to meet. Not perfect, never perfect, but present, honest. Worth the risk of opening a door. Kent, here's what I've learned. You don't earn love by becoming perfect. You make yourself worthy of love by becoming real. By letting the pretending fall away and standing there in the full ordinary truth of who you are. And saying, this is me, all of it, and I'm not going to hide it anymore. This is me. I get nervous in situations that shouldn't make me nervous. I overthink conversations that happened years ago. I get quiet when I'm overwhelmed instead of asking for help, which is something I'm working on. I love deeply and sometimes it frightens me how deeply. I believe in things that can't be measured, in the particular electricity of a moment when two people really connect, in the way certain songs can hold a feeling that no words can quite contain, in the idea that some people come into your life not by accident, but by something older and quieter than coincidence. I believe you came into mine for a reason. I don't know exactly what this becomes. I don't know the shape of the future, or the words of conversations we haven't had yet. But I know how I feel right now, in this seat, watching the city lights begin to appear below the clouds as we start to descend. I know what's living in my chest when I think your name. I know that the landing I've been dreading for hours, because landings mean returning to a life that has sometimes felt too loud and too empty at the same time, feels different tonight. Tonight, it feels like something is beginning. Tonight, the seatbelt sign just came on. We're starting our descent. And my heart is doing something it hasn't done in a long time. Something that feels like waking up. Something that feels like possibility. Something that feels, even in its uncertainty, even in all the things still unsaid and unresolved and unknown. It feels like you. I need you to know. Before the wheels touch down and the moment changes, before the noise of everything else comes rushing back in, I need you to know that what I feel is not something I invented to fill a silence. It is not something convenient or casual or easily replaced. It is yours. It has your name on it. It has been yours for longer than I've been brave enough to admit. My plane is landing. It is not something I'll want to find on the other side. I can feel the pressure changing in my ears as we descend. And it's funny because that's exactly what it feels like inside my chest too. This shift, this adjustment. Like my whole body knows that something significant is on the other side of this landing. Like every part of me is recalibrating for what comes next. For what comes next with you. Daw, I've been staring at my phone for the last 20 minutes, opening and closing it. Starting to type something and then deleting it. Because everything I try to write to you feels either too small or too enormous for a screen. Too condensed for what it actually is. You know that feeling when an emotion is so full that language just barely fits around it. The way a too small jar overflows no matter how carefully you pour. That's what this is. That's what you are to me. Something that keeps overflowing every container I try to put it in. And I need you to sit with that for a second because I don't say things like that. I am not someone who throws those kinds of words around carelessly. The people who know me well would tell you that I am actually quite guarded, quite measured, quite careful with the big things. I don't perform emotion. I don't say I'm feeling something just because it would sound beautiful in the moment. So when I tell you that you overflow every container, I need you to hear that as the specific and deliberate truth that it is. Not poetry, not performance. Just the most accurate description I have for something that doesn't have a cleaner name. So, I want to tell you about a night, a specific night that I haven't talked about with anyone. It was late, later than I should have been awake, and I was sitting in a room that should have felt comfortable because it was mine, my things, my space. But it felt hollow in the way that rooms sometimes feel hollow when you're inside them and something essential is missing. I wasn't sad exactly. It was more like a flat feeling, a gray kind of quiet. The kind that doesn't ask anything of you, but also gives nothing back. I had my phone in my hand, and I wasn't looking for anything in particular, just moving through the world the way you do when you're tired but not sleepy. When you're restless but don't have the energy to do anything about it. You. And then I found something you had left behind. A thought. A small piece of yourself that you'd put out into the world without knowing who was going to find it or what it was going to do to them. And I read it once, and then I read it again, and something in that gray hollow room shifted, not dramatically, not all at once. But the way the light changes when a cloud moves, gradual and then suddenly obvious, suddenly undeniable. I sat there in the quiet and I felt something come back online inside me that I hadn't realized had gone dark. That was you. You did that, without even knowing I was there, without any intention of reaching me specifically. You reached me, and I have thought about that night more times than I can count, because it feels like the beginning of something, like if I were to draw a line through my life and mark the moments that mattered, that quiet late night in a hollow room would be on it, because of you. Because of what you gave me without knowing you were giving it. Downvoted. How do you hold something like that? How do you carry the gratitude for a moment that the other person doesn't even know they were part of? I've been holding it carefully, turning it over, trying to find the right way to bring it to you. And the honest answer is, there is no perfect way, there's only this. Only me telling you, plainly and with my whole heart, that you gave me something on a night when I needed it, and I never want to let that go without you knowing. Fortely, I want you to know what you look like from where I'm standing. Fortely, not physically, although I want to say something about that too, about the way you carry yourself, about the particular way that the most beautiful thing about you has nothing to do with any feature you could point to in a mirror, but everything to do with the energy you move through the world. With warm and a little careful and full of something that draws people toward you like light draws moths, quiet and irresistible. But what I really want you to know is what you look like from the inside out, from the perspective of someone who has been paying attention. You look like someone who has learned things the hard way and chose to become gentle anyway. That is not a small thing. There are people who go through difficulty and it closes them, hardens them, builds walls that never fully come down. And then there are people who go through the same difficulty and somehow come out the other side, more open, more compassionate, more tender with the world, and with the people in it. You are the second kind. I don't know exactly what you've been through. I want you to tell me one day in your own words at your own pace. But I can feel the shape of it in the way you are, in the care you take, in the way you seem to understand without being told that other people are also carrying things you can't see. Dude, you look like someone who loves quietly and completely, who doesn't make a show of it, who just shows up, who remembers the small things, who notices when someone hasn't seemed like themselves lately, who sends a message at the exact right moment without knowing that it was the exact right moment. That kind of love, the attentive, unhurried, I'm paying attention to you kind, is rarer than people realize. It is the kind that sustains, the kind that lasts when the excitement of newness wears off, and what's left is the real thing, the daily thing, the choosing you again this morning thing. I want to be chosen by you like that. Wow. I know that's a vulnerable thing to say. I know that's me standing here with my hands open. Not a performance, not a safe, careful, measured statement, but an actual want, an actual need. And vulnerability has never come easily to me. I have spent a significant portion of my life being very skilled at being the one who gives rather than receives, at being the strong one, the solid one, the one who holds the space for other people's emotions while keeping mine carefully folded and put away somewhere private. It felt safer that way. If you don't show what you need, you can't be disappointed when it isn't given. The one who bet you make me want to unfold all of it. You make me want to take out all those carefully stored things and lay them out and say, here, look, this is all of it. The needing, and the hoping, and the not knowing, and the being afraid, and the wanting, so much more than I've let myself want in a long time. Here, take a look, tell me what you see. Don't go down, because I think you would look without flinching. I think you would look carefully and with kindness, and you would find things to love in the mess of it. Not because you're naive, or because you see things through a softened lens, but because that's the quality of your attention. That's what it feels like to be seen by you, like being in good light, like being understood, rather than just observed, or... The city is very close now. I can see streets, I can see buildings with their lights, I can see the ordinary miraculous fact of thousands of people going about their lives down there, each of them the center of their own enormous story. And I am up here in this descending plane, thinking about you, specifically you, only you. There's something I've been working up to saying, and I keep circling around it, and then retreating, and then circling again, because it's the truest thing, and the truest things are always the ones that require the most courage. So let me just walk directly toward it this time without retreating. I am not the same as I was before you. I don't mean that in a dramatic way. I don't mean that you appeared and suddenly I was transformed. A before and after story. A neat narrative arc. I mean it quietly and precisely. I mean that somewhere in the time since you became part of my world, I started asking different questions, started caring about different things, started measuring my days differently, not by what I accomplished or how I appeared, or what anyone thought, but by whether I felt real inside them, whether I was present, whether I was being honest with myself and with the people I care about. You shifted something in my compass. Quietly, without trying, just by being the kind of person you are. You showed me the direction I actually wanted to be walking in. And I have been walking that way ever since. And it is harder and more uncertain than the direction I was going before. But it is mine. It is true. And at the end of every day when I check in with myself, really check in, the way I'm learning to do, the way I'm practicing, I feel something that I can only describe as rightness, like the particular piece of moving in alignment with something real. You did that. I want you to let that land, even if it takes a minute. I want you to sit with the knowledge that you, just the way you exist and show up in this world, change the direction of someone's life. Not because you did anything extraordinary, by the world's loud measuring sticks, but because you were real and honest, and you carried yourself with an integrity that made me want to carry myself the same way. You became, without trying to, a standard, a quiet north star that I didn't ask for and couldn't do without. I've been writing this to you for a long time in my head. Different drafts, different versions, some of them eloquent and carefully structured, and some of them just rambling and unfinished and full of the kind of repetition that real feeling produces when it doesn't have time to edit itself. But they've all been trying to say the same thing. They've all been circling the same center, reaching toward the same point, which is simply this: you matter. You, specifically. Not as a concept, not as a category, not as a generalized idea of someone to care about, but you, the specific and irreplaceable and completely individual you that has never existed before and will never exist again. That you matter in a way that has changed the texture of my life. And I needed you to know that before this plane touches down. I needed you to know it while I was still suspended between here and there, between what has been and what is about to be, while everything still feels like it's on the verge of becoming something. Because here is the thing I keep coming back to, the thought that has been sitting quietly at the center of all of this for months, and that I've been too careful to say out loud until tonight. I think we're on the verge of something. I think something is getting ready to open between us that has been slowly, patiently, quietly preparing itself for a long time. I think the distance that has existed, the literal distance, the emotional distance, all the distances, is getting smaller. I think the space between where I am and where you are is going to become very soon something that we can actually cross. I want you to hear me say that. I am genuinely, fully, completely terrified. Because this kind of feeling, the real kind, the kind I've been describing to you across all these words, this kind does not come with any protection. You can't love something real and keep yourself safe at the same time. You have to choose. And I am choosing. Tonight, with this descent and this changed pressure in my ears, and these city lights growing brighter and closer below me, I am choosing to feel all of it without the protection. I am choosing you over the safety of not choosing. And the wheels are about to touch down, and everything in me is awake, and I am thinking of you, and I don't know what happens in the next chapter, but I know with the quiet certainty of something deeply felt and long considered, that you are in it. You are in all of it. And there's still so much I need to tell you, so much I haven't even gotten to yet. The parts about what I picture when I imagine us in the same room. The parts about the specific things you've said that I've carried with me, like small stones in my pocket. The parts about what I hope for and what I'm afraid of, and what I would ask you if I could ask you anything. And I will get to all of it. I promise you I will. But right now the runway is rising up to meet me, and the landing gear is down, and the only thought in my entire mind is you. The wheels just touched the ground. And my heart. I need you to understand what my heart just did. It didn't settle the way it usually does when a flight ends. That small exhale of relief, that quiet return to ordinary. It did the opposite. It lifted, like the landing wasn't an ending, but a starting gun. Like the ground rising up to meet me was the world's way of saying, okay, now is when it begins. I'm sitting here while everyone around me is already unbuckling, already reaching for overhead compartments, already pulling out their phones, and stepping back into their lives like this was just a flight, just a Tuesday, just another arrival in a long series of arrivals. And I cannot move. I am genuinely sitting here unable to make myself stand up and join the forward motion of everyone else. Because moving feels like it will break something. Like the moment I stand up and step into the aisle, I will be carried by the current of all these other people toward whatever comes next. And I am not ready for whatever comes next until I finish saying what I need to say to you. So I'm staying in my seat a little longer, like the sun just to talk to you a little longer, Is that okay? Can I have just a little more time with you before the world comes rushing in? I've been thinking this whole flight about something that I don't think I've ever said to anyone directly. It's something I've thought about in private, turned over in my mind at odd hours, examined from different angles the way you examine a thing when you're not sure yet what it means, but you know it means something. And it has to do with the particular kind of loneliness that comes not from being alone, but from being with people who don't quite reach you, from being surrounded and still somehow untouched. I've lived inside that loneliness for stretches of my life that I'm not proud to admit. Stretches where I smiled at the right moments and said the right things and showed up exactly as expected. And nobody knew, nobody could have known from the outside that somewhere in the middle of all that performing, the real me was sitting very still in a quiet room inside myself, with the door closed, waiting. Just waiting for someone who would knock on that door, not because they needed something from the person performing outside it, but because they actually wanted to know who was inside. Don't know if you know that. I don't know if you could feel, from wherever you were, that what you were doing was reaching past the performance and finding the actual person underneath it. But that's what happened. Somehow, through everything, through all the layers and distances, and the careful presentation I'd spent years perfecting, you found the real door, and you knocked on it in that particular way you have, gentle but persistent, warm but genuine, not demanding anything, just making it known that you were there, that you were interested in whoever was on the other side. And I opened it. I want you to understand how significant that is. I want you to understand that I don't open that door. I have let people live in my life for years, real, present, physically close people, who never once got close to that door, because I had become so skilled at making sure they didn't have to, at giving them enough of the outside version that they never felt the absence of the inside one. I had become, in a way I didn't fully recognize until recently, a very convincing substitute for myself. Dieu mentally, and then you came along, and the substitution stopped working, because you were looking too carefully, paying too much attention, and something in me, some tired and hopeful part of me that had been waiting in that quiet room for a very long time, recognized that you were different, and refused to let me keep the door closed. So here I am, door open, completely exposed in the specific way that feels terrifying, and also, underneath the terror, like the deepest relief I have ever felt. Like I've been holding my breath for years and you somehow gave me permission to exhale. I exhaled. I want to tell you about the version of my future that I let myself imagine sometimes, late at night when my guard is down and hope is louder than fear. I want to tell you about it carefully. The way you describe a dream that you don't want to dissolve by talking about it too directly, but that you also need to speak out loud, because keeping it inside is starting to feel like a kind of dishonesty. Better than like it. In this version, mornings are different. In this version, waking up is something I move toward rather than something I brace for. There's a warmth in it, a softness, something that lives in the first few seconds of consciousness, that makes the day feel like it belongs to me rather than something I owe to everyone else. And it's because you're in it, not necessarily in some grand or arranged way, just present, just yours and mine and ours, in the quiet, unhurried way of two people who have decided to stop being careful around each other and just be told. I imagine telling you things, small things, the thoughts that occur to me during the day that I currently have nowhere to put, that I currently carry around until they dissolve without ever being shared. The funny thing I saw on the way to somewhere, the memory that surfaced unexpectedly while I was doing something ordinary. The worry that's been sitting at the back of my mind that I haven't said out loud because there's been no one to say it out loud to, no one who would hold it carefully enough. I imagine putting all of those things down in front of you and watching you pick them up with that attention of yours. That real, unhurried, genuine attention. And I feel something so warm in my chest imagining it, that it's almost uncomfortable. That, is it strange that one of the things I want most is just to talk to you? Not about anything important, necessarily. Not always the deep confessional things I've been pouring out tonight. Just talk. The easy back and forth of two people who know each other well enough to be boring together. Comfortable enough to leave sentences unfinished. Close enough to sit in silence without it needing to be filled. I have never had that with someone, and fully felt like myself at the same time. I have either been comfortable or been myself, but rarely both at once. And I believe, with a certainty that surprises me in its steadiness, that with you I could finally have both. I could be comfortable and real, relaxed and honest, easy and deep. I could just be. There's a question I've wanted to ask you and never have, because every time I get close to it, I lose my nerve, which is not something I admit often. The losing my nerve part, the question is, what do you want? Not from me specifically, not yet, but just in general, for your life, for your days. What does the version of your future look like when you let yourself imagine it honestly, without editing for what seems realistic, or what other people might think, or what you've been told you should want? What's in it? What up? I ask because I think people ask you about yourself less often than they should. I think you've become so good at being interested in others, at asking the questions and holding the space and turning the conversation toward whoever needs it most, that you've quietly gotten out of the habit of being the subject, of being the one whose dreams are the topic, of sitting in the warmth of someone else's full and focused attention turned completely, deliberately on you. Though I want to turn it on you, though I want to ask you all the questions and actually wait, actually listen, actually let your answers land fully before I move to the next thing. I want to know what you were like as a child, what you loved, what you were afraid of, what you were certain about at 7 years old that turned out to be true, and what you believed that the world slowly edited out of you. I want to know what kind of tired you are right now, the surface kind that a good night's sleep fixes, or the deeper kind that lives in your bones and needs something more than rest. I want to know what song you've had on repeat lately, and what it's doing to you when you listen to it. Rita, I want to know what you miss. Everyone misses something, usually something they can't go back to. Sometimes something they never fully had. Sometimes a version of themselves they left behind somewhere and haven't been able to find since. I want to know what yours is. I want to sit with you in the missing and not try to fix it. Not rush you past it toward a silver lining. Just be there in it with you the way a good companion is. Present and unafraid of the sad parts. Because I think you've spent too much time being strong in rooms where you deserve to be held. I think you've spent too much time being the person with answers when you had your own questions. I think you've given so much of your warmth outward that sometimes at the end of the day there's not enough left and you lie there in the dark and wonder if anyone would notice if you needed some of it back. If anyone would show up for you the way you show up for everyone else, I would notice. I want you to really hear that. Not as a nice thing someone is saying, not as a performance of care, but as a specific and personal commitment from the specific and personal me to the specific and personal you. I would notice. I am already noticing. From wherever I have been, from this seat, on this plane, on this night, I have been noticing you. The full you. The tired parts and the brave parts, and the quietly uncertain parts, and the parts that light up when something catches your heart by surprise. The all. I notice all of it. And I am not going anywhere. That is the thing I most want to give you tonight. If I could reach through everything between us and put something directly in your hands. Not a grand gesture, not a promise about forever. Because I know how heavy that word is and how casually it gets misused. Just this, the simple, solid, undecorated knowledge that I am not going anywhere, that my attention is not going to wander. That whatever this is between us, this real and growing and terrifying and wonderful thing, I am in it with both hands, with my whole self, with none of the 1 foot out the door energy that has characterized too many things in my life before this, finally a cool thing. I think about what it would feel like to walk through a door and find you on the other side. Not a metaphorical door this time, an actual one. Wood and hinges and a handle, and you standing on the other side of it, in whatever ordinary thing you'd be doing. Maybe not even expecting me, maybe startled for a second, and then that second passing, and you seeing me, really seeing me, and me seeing you, really seeing you, and everything that lives between us, in the space of all these words and all this feeling, suddenly having a physical location, a room, a moment, a reality. So, I think about what I would do first. Whether I would say something or whether all the words would temporarily evacuate me, the way they sometimes do when the real thing is finally in front of you after you've been living in the anticipation of it for so long. Whether I would just stand there for a moment, being completely unable to be articulate, and feeling completely okay about that. Because some moments don't need to be narrated. Some moments are allowed to just be experienced from the inside without any performance for the outside. I think I would just look at you for a long moment. I think I would just look. The way you look at something you've been trying to see clearly for a long time and have finally gotten close enough to. The way you look at something that is exactly what you hoped it would be, maybe more, maybe different in ways you didn't anticipate, but that turned out to be better than what you anticipated. I would look at you and I would feel the landing, the real landing, not the plane, but the one inside. The one where all the circling finally stops, and you come down gently into the place you've been trying to find. I would feel home, Chugang fire. Oh, Chugang. I haven't felt home in a long time. Not in a place, not in a room, not in a circumstance. Home for me has been a person-shaped absence for years. A silhouette of something I couldn't quite fill in. A warmth I could remember the idea of but couldn't quite locate in my current life. And I know, the way you know things that live below logic and beneath words. The way you know things that your whole body agrees with before your mind has finished working out the argument. I know that what I've been missing has your shape. The way Inko are what home feels like to me, and I'm on the ground now and the doors are opening and people are moving, and the world is about to come in loud and fast and full of everything that isn't this moment. And I am not ready to let go of this yet. I am not ready to step out of this conversation and back into the ordinary machinery of days. Because in here, in this space between just you and just me, something is alive and warm and true. And I want to stay in it just a little longer, just a few more minutes, just until I've said the rest of what's building in my chest, and pushing toward you, and refusing to be kept quiet any longer. And there is still so much I haven't told you yet. And I need you to stay with me. I need you to not go anywhere. Because what's coming next is the part I've never said to anyone. The part I've kept deepest and most carefully. The part that is the truest thing I know about what I feel when I think your name. And I am finally ready to say it. I'm standing in the jetway right now, that narrow corridor between the plane and the airport. That strange in-between space that belongs to neither one thing nor the other. And I've stopped walking. People are moving around me, brushing past with their carry-ons and their destinations and their perfectly ordinary reasons for being somewhere. And I am standing completely still because I realized something just hit me. Something landed in my chest with such quiet force that my legs just stopped cooperating. I realized that in a few minutes I'm going to walk out into that terminal and the world is going to ask things of me. It's going to have needs and schedules and names and faces and all the apparatus of a life that exists independent of what I feel for you. And I'm going to have to show up for it. I'm going to have to be present and functional and recognizable as myself. And I will. Actually listen. Actually let your answers land fully before I move to the next thing. I want to know what you were like as a child, what you loved, what you were afraid of, what you were certain about at 7 years old that turned out to be true, and what you believed that the world slowly edited out of you. I want to know what kind of tired you are right now, the surface kind that a good night's sleep fixes, or the deeper kind that lives in your bones and needs something more than rest. I want to know what song you've had on repeat lately, and what it's doing to you when you listen to it. Rita, I want to know what you miss. Everyone misses something, usually something they can't go back to. Sometimes something they never fully had. Sometimes a version of themselves they left behind somewhere and haven't been able to find since. I want to know what yours is. I want to sit with you in the missing and not try to fix it. Not rush you past it toward a silver lining. Just be there in it with you the way a good companion is, present and unafraid of the sad parts. Because I think you've spent too much time being strong in rooms where you deserve to be held. I think you've spent too much time being the person with answers when you had your own questions. I think you've given so much of your warmth outward that sometimes at the end of the day there's not enough left and you lie there in the dark and wonder if anyone would notice if you needed some of it back. If anyone would show up for you the way you show up for everyone else, I would notice. I want you to really hear that. Not as a nice thing someone is saying, not as a performance of care, but as a specific and personal commitment from the specific and personal me to the specific and personal you. I would notice. I am already noticing. From wherever I have been, from this seat, on this plane, on this night, I have been noticing you. The full you. The tired parts and the brave parts, and the quietly uncertain parts, and the parts that light up when something catches your heart by surprise. The all. I notice all of it. And I am not going anywhere. That is the thing I most want to give you tonight. If I could reach through everything between us and put something directly in your hands. Not a grand gesture, not a promise about forever. Because I know how heavy that word is and how casually it gets misused. Just this, the simple, solid, undecorated knowledge that I am not going anywhere, that my attention is not going to wander. That whatever this is between us, this real and growing and terrifying and wonderful thing, I am in it with both hands, with my whole self, with none of the 1 foot out the door energy that has characterized too many things in my life before this, poignantly a cool thing. I think about what it would feel like to walk through a door and find you on the other side. Not a metaphorical door this time, an actual one. Wood and hinges and a handle and you standing on the other side of it. In whatever ordinary thing you'd be doing. Maybe not even expecting me, maybe startled for a second, and then that second passing, and you seeing me, really seeing me, and me seeing you, really seeing you, and everything that lives between us, in the space of all these words and all this feeling, suddenly having a physical location, a room, a moment, a reality. So, I think about what I would do first. Whether I would say something or whether all the words would temporarily evacuate me, the way they sometimes do when the real thing is finally in front of you after you've been living in the anticipation of it for so long. Whether I would just stand there for a moment, being completely unable to be articulate, and feeling completely okay about that. Because some moments don't need to be narrated. Some moments are allowed to just be experienced from the inside without any performance for the outside. I think I would just look at you. For a long moment. I think I would just look. The way you look at something you've been trying to see clearly for a long time and have finally gotten close enough to. The way you look at something that is exactly what you hoped it would be, maybe more, maybe different in ways you didn't anticipate, but that turned out to be better than what you anticipated. I would look at you and I would feel the landing, the real landing, not the plane, but the one inside. The one where all the circling finally stops. And you come down gently into the place you've been trying to find. I would feel home, Chugang fire. Oh, Chugang. I haven't felt home in a long time. Not in a place, not in a room, not in a circumstance.